Thank you so much for joining us today. My name is Sam. I'm in client services here at the Retirement Group, and I'm going to be moderating this webinar. Throughout the webinar, you'll see me throw some useful links into the chat box. They will direct you to our corporate retirement guides, as well as a link to book an appointment with an advisor after this presentation. During today's presentation, our speaker, Michael Corgett, will be speaking to corporate employees about how they can safeguard their 401k throughout such a volatile environment. You'll gain some valuable insight on how to manage your risk and to protect your 401k. Before I bring Michael on, I just wanted to remind you that although we have extensive knowledge of working with your company, we are not endorsed nor affiliated by any company. The Retirement Group is a completely independent group of financial advisors. After the presentation, I would also like to let you know we'll be having a very short question and answer session. If you find that you have a question throughout Michael's presentation, please enter it in the Q&A box down below, and he will answer as many as possible at the end of his presentation. It's completely anonymous. And I think that was all I had to talk about. So I'm going to bring on our speaker, Michael Corgett. Michael, hello.
Hi, Sam. Thank you. I'd like to welcome everybody to today's presentation too. Hope you're having a great day. My name is Michael Corgett. I am one of the retirement-focused advisors here at the Retirement Group. We're going to talk about some fun subjects today, a little bit more 401ks, what to do with your 401k, how to invest your 401k, how to avoid taxes and penalties on distributions from your 401k. But we're also going to talk about some of the tax law changes that are relevant to your retirement, that are relevant also to 401ks and pensions, talk a little bit about tax planning in general, and then how we can help individuals like yourself. As Sam mentioned, we're an independent advisory firm. We utilize Charles Schwab as our investment platform. That's obviously how we get paid. We manage money for our clients. One of the many resources that we offer are these independent webinars on all sorts of different subjects. We're here to help and educate, help answer questions. This is a general presentation, so it's not particular to any one of the many companies that we focus on and work with, like AT&T, ExxonMobil, Boeing, Caterpillar, Chevron, just to name a few. But we also offer many independent, specific presentations for all the employers that we have focused on. We also have our own retirement guides for all the companies that I mentioned, plus some. You can find these on our website, theretirementgroup.com. You can always reach out to us too at 800-900-5867, and we'd be happy to email one to you, as well as email us yourself at info@theretirementgroup.com. As I said, these are one of our many different resources. We also offer, we have a blog, we have a newsletter. We also have a great ebooks library filled with books on all sorts of different subjects. And then probably the most important and valuable resource we offer is our retirement cash flow analysis. It's a snapshot of your current retirement situation and where you look and how you might look in retirement, whether that is a month from now, a year from now, 5 or 10 years from now. The sooner you start planning for retirement, the better off you're going to be. And working with a financial advisor can be very helpful and very valuable. In my opinion, the sooner you work with an advisor, the better off you're going to be long-term. So as I mentioned, I'm one of the advisors with the firm. We have a combined 150 plus years of knowledge and experience working with corporate employees. I myself have been an advisor for over 30 years. We've got offices nationwide from the East Coast to the West Coast. I personally am here based in St. Louis, along with my partner, Patrick Ray, but I've got colleagues all over the country. We are very knowledgeable on your 401k, your pensions, and your medical programs. And I've already mentioned, but definitely want to take advantage of our complimentary financial analysis, our Retire Kit. You can follow us on our LinkedIn page by scanning this QR code. So go ahead and grab it. I'll also have it again here at the tail end of the presentation. So initially, let's talk about some of the tax changes that are part of Secure Act and the Secure Act 2.0. We're going to talk about the changes in required minimum distributions, otherwise known as RMDs, the changes in stretch inherited IRAs or inherited IRAs in general, the removal of age restrictions on IRA contributions. We'll talk about both federal and state income taxes, and I've mentioned it already, the Secure Act 2.0. First, RMDs. For the longest time, you were going to be required to make distributions from all of your qualified IRA assets eventually. Well, the eventually was the age of 70 and a half, okay? If you didn't or you weren't making enough of a distribution from your IRA accounts, the age of 70 and a half has now changed. And now it's up to age 73 for most of us. For some of you, it was 72, but if you hadn't started your RMD yet, now it is the age of 73. And as the two bullet points here mention, for most of you, it will be 73. For myself and for a lot of us, it's going to be 75 if you were born in 1960 or later. So you can defer those RMDs for later on in life. Those RMDs are obviously taxable distributions, and depending on your personal situation, what you do with that money could make a big difference as far as your overall retirement plan, as well as the legacy that you're going to leave behind for your family. The old stretch on inherited IRAs has been replaced, or more likely, it's just been eliminated, all right? Before, you used to be able to stretch an inherited IRA over your lifetime. That's the old rule. Now, non-spousal beneficiaries will receive basically a 10-year period of time that they must liquidate a non-spousal inherited IRA. So essentially, your children or whomever that's not your spouse, they inherit a portion of or all of your IRA. They're going to have to take the money out of that IRA within a 10-year period of time. They don't have to do it immediately, but they do need to do it. The government wants their pound of flesh. They do want the taxes on it. And this rule, it does have an impact on many people. It's obviously individualized. So you got to keep this in mind. The ability to stretch IRAs over your lifetime, it no longer exists. The age restrictions on IRA contributions. You used to not be able to make a traditional IRA contribution past the age of 70 and a half. Well, now you can. And there are many individuals that are still working beyond 70 and a half and do want to make IRA contributions and continue to save for their own retirement. Some of the tax laws, tax brackets, they change annually. I've got a simple screen here for 2022, and then I'm just going to go ahead and jump to the tax tables for 2023. We can get you a tax guide or a snapshot that includes all of the current income tax brackets, as well as the contribution limits to IRAs, the RMD tables. We get these from a number of sources. Many of the firms that we work with, all you have to do is reach out to the office and we'd be happy to send you one of these. We like to call them simple tax guides. But as you can see, the marginal tax brackets for single individuals, married couples, and heads of household have all gone up. Now, we are in one of the lowest income tax environments still. This is from the 2017 Tax Act. So trying to maximize the lower brackets is very smart when it comes to taking your distributions from your IRAs, your qualified plan accounts that you're going to have to pay taxes on. I've got a great discussion later on in the presentation that I think will help you to understand that. That's the federal level. Now, at the state level, obviously, marginal income tax rates at the state level are also, they need to be taken into account, and it is important to know what those state taxes are. This table here is essentially giving you an idea of the no income tax states in white, like Tennessee, Texas, and Florida, Washington, Nevada, Wyoming, and South Dakota. The low marginal tax brackets are in the light blue. The bulk of the country is in the 4 to 8% tax range. And then there are states that have tax rates in excess of 8%. So knowing where you're going to retire and start to collect your retirement income from your pension, as well as your IRAs and after-tax taxable accounts, it's important. You know, a lot of folks are moving to states that do not have a state income tax rate. Florida is a great example, Texas as well. And you could see that by the fact that both those states continue to grow in population, and their electors in the various elections, especially the presidential elections, goes up. All right. Do you want to live and retire in a high income tax state versus a low or a no income tax state? You've got to take this into account along with your federal income taxes. Some of the bullet points on the Secure Act 2.0, I've already talked about the later ages for RMDs. The excise tax has been reduced from 50 to 25%. That's if you fail to make a distribution. There's no RMDs for Roth 401k accounts. Higher limits and looser restrictions on qualified charitable distributions from IRAs, which is important to some people. There are higher catch-up contributions for both IRAs and 401ks now. Roth matching contributions as well. So on, retirement savings, lost and found. I like that. And even 529 account values, college savings plans can be rolled over to Roth IRAs. So let's talk a little bit more about IRA tax planning, starting with inflation, talking about what you would want to do with a lump sum distribution if your employer affords you that opportunity to take a lump sum versus taking a monthly pension. We'll talk about the spillover opportunity out of 401ks, conventional withdrawals, and special tax situations, and then we'll touch on the RMDs again. All right. Well, we're all aware that inflation has been pretty significant the last couple of years. Since COVID and all of the liquidity that's been pumped into our economy and worldwide by our governments, as well as the central banks of many countries, it's created a lot of liquidity, which in turn has created a lot of inflation. And now here we are 3 years later dealing with that inflation. The Fed in the United States probably waited too long. Inflation peaked last year at 9.1%. It recently ticked down from 6 to 5% year over year on core CPI. The Fed has been raising interest rates significantly over the past year, probably the most in increases in 1 year over the last 40 in 2022, and they continue to do it in 2023. And fixed income investments now are paying pretty darn good interest rates, money market funds, CDs, even bond investments. That's right now, though, and that's because we're in a very high interest rate environment. Bonds and fixed income investments do poorly in a climate of rising prices without rising interest rates. And essentially, on average, rates are probably at least 2 percentage points higher than normal. So fixed income investments typically will not keep pace with inflation. So year over year, you're going to lose purchasing value. All right. So you're better off to invest your funds. One thing, we'll talk about value investing here in a minute, but investing in equities, specifically conservative equities, many of which that pay dividends, and in many cases, good dividends, while affording yourself the opportunity of watching your principal grow in value because it's a stock. Many of the companies that we work with, their stocks do pay dividends, and their stocks have been good investments for price appreciation. Bonds don't appreciate in value that much. CDs don't appreciate in value at all. Neither do money market funds. Talking about a lump sum, as I said, many employers that we work with offer lump sums in addition to monthly distributions or joint and survivor options for you and your spouse. You're typically going to want to take that lump sum and directly roll it over or transfer it into an IRA. There's no tax on that rollover, and there's no taxes on it until you begin to take distributions from your lump sum. The same holds true for your 401k. We have a great presentation on all of the intricacies and options for 401ks. So I'll just save that for a future presentation, but you definitely want to avoid paying income taxes by rolling over your pension into an IRA for future withdrawals. I mentioned earlier the spillover. Many 401ks offer you the opportunity to actually make larger contributions in excess of the total distributions that can be made, or total contributions that can be made to the 401k. Here you've got the 2022 contribution limits. This year, the primary contribution could be $22,500, and the catch-up is $6,500 for a total of $30,000 pre-tax or pre-tax and Roth contributions. Now, for those of you who can afford to save even more than that, any additions above the primary and catch-up contributions would go in after tax. That's what we call a spillover contribution. And annually, you can take that excess money and transfer it out of the 401k, no penalties, no problems, and put it into a Roth IRA. And then the assets will grow tax-free for the rest of its life. All the pre-tax contributions would go into a traditional IRA and would remain tax deferred, but it is tax deferred. You will eventually have to pay income taxes on any distributions from traditional IRAs. But having another bucket of money, and that is the Roth IRA, is an excellent idea. It's good to have multiple choices to make withdrawals from for your retirement. Now, talking about withdrawals, the conventional withdrawal order, and this has been for years. The first would be to take money from your taxable investments, money that you've already paid, had invested and already paid taxes on, then your tax deferred investments, and then your tax exempt investments, which would be like Roth IRAs. Okay. The good is to optimize for the compounding potential of the tax advantaged investments, and it's easy. The bad, it doesn't fully consider the long-term impact on your overall taxes. So here's the conventional withdrawal strategy. All of us are eventually, hopefully, going to be collecting some Social Security. Let's say we have some money in brokerage accounts, CDs, after-tax investments, and the conventional strategy would be to liquidate those first, and then go after your tax-deferred assets, your traditional IRAs, your pension, and your 401k rollover. And then when those are exhausted, then go after the tax-exempt assets, which would be your Roth IRAs. Now, this is a strategy that has been used a lot over the years. And, you know, we prefer a different kind of strategy. We call it bracket planning. All right. Why not take from all three buckets of money? Obviously, your Social Security, that won't change, but you want to try and maximize the withdrawal on your tax deferred investments up to a given marginal tax bracket, whether it's the 12%, the 22%, the 24%, whatever it might be. Even if you don't utilize all of it, you can reinvest it in your after-tax investments, but also take some money from your tax-exempt investments so you're not jumping from one tax bracket to the next. So make withdrawals from, i.e., your Roth IRAs, if any distribution from your IRA on top of your Social Security income and any other fixed income investment that you might have, other pensions and the like, you don't want to jump from one marginal bracket to the next with your tax deferred investments. That's when you would want to go into your tax exempt investments. But some of the guidelines, as I think I've already talked about, you want to fill up the lower tax brackets with your tax deferred income each year, whatever bracket that might be. I mentioned 12 or 22 or 24%. Definitely be aware of the taxes on your Social Security benefits and try and minimize that as well. You want to definitely work with a tax professional there. And then strategically, as I talked about, utilize the taxable and the tax exempt assets. So you're not overtaxing yourself on your tax deferred assets. Some of the special tax situations on pre-59.5 withdrawals from an IRA. As you can see here, a number of bullet points listed: medical expenses, health insurance, disability. You've inherited IRA, there's no penalties there. Life expectancy distributions, the rule of 72, so on and so forth. So there are exceptions to the 10% penalty. I will mention that there's a post 55 option rule, however you want to clarify it, on your 401k. And what we mean by that is, if you are 55 or going to be 55 the year you leave your employer and don't plan on going back to work somewhere else, you can typically access funds from your 401k at the age of 55 and avoid the 10% penalty, but you still have to pay both federal and potentially state income taxes on it. We use post 55 planning for a lot of our clients who have and or will retire prior to 59.5. Your lump sum from your pension has gone into an IRA. You typically don't want to access that until you reach 59.5, as long as you've got a 401k value. And then I mentioned the RMD distributions. You may withdraw as much as you want between the ages of 59.5 and essentially 72 now, for the most part, 73 and 75. Those distributions are calculated on an annual basis. They are subject to a change. There are factors that apply based on your age and the value of the total of your IRA investments. So a lot of information. I talked about a lot of different things, but I want to point out that you should and make sure you got a plan. A lot of Americans over the age of 50 do not have a plan. We're happy to put together a complimentary retire kit, our cash flow analysis for you, to give you an idea of where you stand right now. We'd love to help you out. And the sooner that you start planning, the better off you're going to be long-term. Schedule a meeting with myself or one of my colleagues. You could scan the QR code here on the left. You could give the office a call at 1-800-900-5867. You could send an email to info@theretirementgroup.com. And then finally, you could scan the QR code on the right and follow us on our LinkedIn page. You can get access to a lot of our resources there, as well as see the future webinar schedules in general and or for your employers. Okay, so with all that said, I do really appreciate everyone for joining us today. I'm going to go ahead and hand the presentation back to Sam to see what kind of questions we've got. Sam?
Thank you, Michael. Yeah, we had a few really great questions come in. The first one is, how can I withdraw funds from my 401k and invest in a CD to potentially reduce market fluctuations?
That's a good question. I mentioned earlier that fixed income investments, including CDs, are paying much higher interest rates right now, between 4 and 5, and in some cases in excess of 5%. How can I withdraw money from my 401k? All right. Well, for many of you, there's an in-service withdrawal option where you can take a portion of your current 401k plan assets out of your 401k and roll it into an IRA. And then you can do anything you want by investing those funds. Okay. And as I mentioned, we're an independent advisory firm. We use Charles Schwab. For many of our clients, we're able to invest their funds in, amongst other things, fixed income CDs, as well as high yielding money market funds. So that's one way to do it. Some of the employers that we work with also offer brokerage link options to their employees. Many of you are not aware of that. And the company, I guess, really doesn't want to make you aware of it. But some of the employers that I know for a fact that offer it, so you could potentially transfer internally from the traditional 401k accounts, the index funds that are available to you, into a brokerage link account, and then invest in a CD, hopefully as well, with the platform that's available through your 401k.
Sorry about that. Okay, second one. Is it possible to purchase value within my 401k, or do I require an in-service distribution?
That's a good question. I believe what this person is referring to is value investments versus growth investments. I talked a little bit, very briefly, about traditional value, income, dividend paying stocks. All right. We are a more conservative firm, number one. We do lean more towards value investments versus growth oriented investments. Value investments are less volatile, so the roller coaster ride is less long term. Value historically has outperformed growth investments over the long term. There are times when growth outperforms value and value outperforms growth. But values, again, the roller coaster ride is smaller with value investments. All right. To answer the question, well, the first thing I'll say is it depends on the funds that are available in your 401k. Most of the funds in 401ks are typically index funds, and they're indexed to include both value and growth, like the S&P 500. So they're not going to be value oriented specifically. I can't say that about all employers, but in most cases, that's the way it works. So chances are either do an in-service rollover and let someone like myself or our firm point you towards great value investments like Berkshire Hathaway, Warren Buffett's firm, because again, it makes an awful lot of sense. So I hope that helped answer that question.
Great, thank you. The next one, there's just two more. How can I determine my eligibility for an in-service withdrawal?
That one's pretty easy. I mean, just contact the administrator of your 401k. Now, I will say myself and my colleagues have a great idea of how to do that for you. We certainly could tell you whatever employer that you're with, how and what those amounts would be, but definitely to find out the specific amount that you could do an in-service rollover would require a phone call to the custodian of your 401k. I'll mention Fidelity because they manage a lot of the 401ks for the companies that we've worked with over the past years.
Alrighty, last one, Michael. Am I able to withdraw from my pension plan while still working?
That's a good, and that's a unique question. In general, you typically cannot make withdrawals from your pension plan assets, but you can make withdrawals and make loans against your 401k plan assets. Now, what I will say is that you would probably need to contact the administrator of your pension, because every company is unique, first and foremost. There are certain hardship opportunities to make withdrawals from pension plan assets. So please keep that in mind, but there's also potential penalties. The intent is your pension is an asset that's been created for you by your company. Your 401k is a combination of your company doing something for you, but you're doing something for yourself as well. So in general, it could be an opportunity. I would say more than likely not, but you want to contact the administrator of your specific pension plan, or certainly reach out to us and we could help you do that.
All righty, Michael, that was all the questions we had today.
Okay. Well, as I mentioned a little earlier, I appreciate everyone joining us today. Give us a call, 1-800-900-5867. Send us an email at info@theretirementgroup. Go to our website, theretirementgroup.com. Go to our LinkedIn page. Everybody have a great day, and thank you for your time.
Thank you, Michael. Have a good day, everyone.